Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Okay, Noelle, I have to make a confession.
Oh, what did you do?
I didn't do anything.
I'm checking Twitter.
I didn't tweet anything.
No, you didn't. Too bad. I was hoping for an epic rant.
Noelle, I'm trying to confess something here.
Lani, you don't have to confess anything. I'm sure whatever it is, it's not as shameful as you think.
I ship Xander and Willow.
You what? Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm film scholar with issues, Noelle LaCroix.
And I'm story expert with a Joan Collins-Tude, Lani Diane Rich.
And we're here today to talk about When She Was Bad, the first episode of Season 2. When She Was Bad first aired on September 15th, 1997, and was written and directed by Joss Whedon.
And a warning before we begin, every episode of Still Pretty talks about each episode within the greater context of all of Buffy, and as such is fully spoiled. So embrace the pain, spank your inner moppet or whatever, but let's go on patrol. In When She Was Bad, Buffy returns from a summer in Los Angeles with her dad to find a vampire attacking Xander and Willow. She dispatches the vampire and reunites with her friends, but something isn't quite right. At school, when Cordelia is oddly friendly, Buffy is oddly bitchy.
Your secret's safe with me. Well, that works out great. You won't tell anyone that I'm the Slayer, and I won't tell anyone you're a moron.
Later, at the Bronze, Buffy is rude to Angel, and then takes Xander to the dance floor where she dances up on him all sexy-like. Willow watches on sadly, and Xander doesn't seem to be enjoying being used by Buffy either. Her job of upsetting everyone she loves done, she leaves, only to be followed by Cordelia, who gives her some advice.
Whatever's causing the Joan Collins-Tude, deal with it. Embrace the pain, spank your inner moppet, whatever. But get over it. Because pretty soon you're not going to even have the loser friends you've got now.
Buffy turns her back and doesn't see Cordelia kidnapped by vampires. They bring her to a warehouse where she finds an unconscious Jenny Calendar. Buffy goes by the cemetery to the place where the Master was supposed to be buried and finds the grave empty. At school, Xander and Willow talk to Giles about how strangely Buffy is behaving, and Giles figures it's about unprocessed trauma from her encounter with the Master. Buffy shows up and tells Giles what she saw the night before.
They're going to bring the Master back to life, and I seem to recall you telling me he was history.
Buffy, I've never heard of a revivification ritual being successful.
But you've heard of them? Thanks for the warning.
In the library, a stone wrapped in Cordelia's necklace comes flying through the window with a note attached telling Buffy to come to the Bronze. Buffy goes out on her own, despite Willow, Xander, and Giles warning her that it's clearly a trap. At the Bronze, Angel shows up, and Buffy challenges him to a fight. He refuses, and they go inside to find a lone vampire pretending to be Cordelia. Buffy realizes her friends were right. It's a trap. She runs to the library and finds Xander, who angrily tells her that Willow and Giles have been kidnapped by vampires.
If they hurt Willow, I'll kill you.
Buffy takes Xander back to the Bronze, where he and Angel watch as Buffy tortures information out of the vampire. They rush to the warehouse, where the vampires are setting up a ritual over the Master's bones, intending to kill Giles, Willow, Jenny Calendar, and Cordelia, the people who were with him when the Master died. Buffy breaks in and fights the vampires, while Angel and Xander free the hostages.
Where's Buffy?
She's working out her issues.
Buffy kills the vampires and then takes a sledgehammer to the Master's bones, grinding them into dust before breaking down into tears in Angel's arms. The next day at school, she's feeling bad about how she's treated her friends, but when she goes to class, Willow and Xander forgive her without her even needing to apologize.
So we bronzing it tonight?
Wednesday's kind of beat.
Well, we could grind our enemies into talcum powder with a sledgehammer, but gosh, we did that last night.
All right, Noelle. So here we are. We're in season 2. I'm so excited.
Hello and welcome to season 2.
Welcome to season 2.
Here we go.
Can you feel the difference already? Doesn't it kind of feel like it's growing up and it's sort of finding itself?
Oh, for sure. And it looks different right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something different in the quality of the shots and the composition, and of course everybody got makeovers over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Partly that is because we have a shift in who our costume designer is. Cynthia Bergstrom replaces Susanna Puisto. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. And everyone gets makeovers, which is partly explained with Buffy's shopping trip with Hank.
Right.
But I feel like the characters just become more themselves in how they're dressed. And of course, everyone gets haircuts, which I don't know. The back to school haircut is a thing. So
it is a thing. It is a thing.
So you have that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But everything seems more mature. Like the characters feel like they're growing up, and the show feels like it's growing into itself. And I love the whole season 2 vibe. You get into it and you're like, okay, I know where I am now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we get lots and lots and lots of that punchy dialogue that Buffy is really known for. And I feel like Buffy is the first one of the first television shows to do that.
Yeah.
And this is really where it takes off. But I got to tell you, I kind of hate this episode.
Oh, you hate this episode.
I kind of do. I kind of do. It's really, really hard to watch. I mean, it looks really beautiful, and I feel like everyone is really on it with the acting and the production design and the costume design. It's really beautiful. It's shot really nicely, and there's, just some gorgeous composition, and everybody looks great, and I just hate it. I just hate seeing Buffy be so mean to characters that we care about.
Yeah, it is weird because, you go from this shift from season 1 to season 2, right? And you're so excited. You're going to see your characters again, but they're new and they're fresh. And every new season kind of feels like this big movement, And here we have Buffy, who is not really Buffy. Like, we're excited to see Buffy again, but we're not seeing Buffy because this is not Buffy. But this is Buffy processing trauma, which is something that throughout the run of Buffy, when terrible things happen to her, which happen a lot, we have Buffy dealing with a lot of terrible things, we don't process her trauma. We do it here, and we do it in season 3 with Anne, right? Mm-hmm. So we see her processing her trauma in both of these season openers. But for the most part, things happen to her, and she just picks up and moves on, and everybody's like, oh, hey, no big deal. When it's a big damn deal, like what happens to her is a big deal. So I kind of like that we are actually processing her trauma in this episode. I like that we are addressing the fact that what has happened to her was terrifying and, traumatic. And I mean, this was the matter of a few hours, right? Between when she found out the prophecy said she was going to die. She went and met with the master. The master kills her. She's resurrected. She goes and kills the master. And then boom, they're at the dance. That's like a 5-hour span. I mean, that is a huge amount of trauma to have in a short period of time, and then to have to process that, especially because she's spending the summer with her dad. Her dad has no idea. Her mother has no idea. Like, nobody has any idea what she's been through.
Right.
So, so that whole thing, I actually like that we do that in this episode, but I completely understand why it feels like such a disappointment. We come back and Buffy's not even Buffy.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with you. I absolutely love that we're showing Buffy reacting to this experience of having died, and having come back, and how she is changed by this experience, and she has nobody who can really relate to her. She really has no, Hank says something about her being sort of disconnected. Yeah. And I mean, there is no one who can really understand the experience that she's had. And, I like that we get to see her doing this sort of sullen, bitter thing where she's angry at everyone. Yeah. But I think that for a season premiere, the hurt people narrative, especially because she's hurting people that we care about. Like, it's really, really hard to watch her be cruel to her friends when we're also rooting. Like, I want to root for Buffy, and I get that she's processing trauma, but I'm also like, oh, that's uncomfortable.
That's the dance scene, right?
Oh, God.
So here she is. I mean, the dance scene, I think, is the hardest to watch.
Yeah.
Because of so many different things that are going on there. Like, there's Willow-Xander, right? She does the little, foam on her nose, mimicking the ice cream on her nose from the opening, right? Yeah. She's trying to get his attention and do the little flirty thing, but Buffy's there. He has no attention to give to Willow. Buffy pulls him onto the dance floor, knowing how Willow feels about him, does this sexy dance on him solely to make Angel crazy.
Yeah.
And then when she says, like, because it's one thing that she's acting out, it's one thing that she's cranky and she's angry and she's a little bitter, but this particular moment is actively cruel. Like, she's being cruel to everyone. And then when she says to him, "Did I ever thank you for saving my life? Don't you wish I would?" Like, after dancing up on him that way, it is such a mean thing to say, especially when she knows how he feels about her. Like, he told her at the end of the previous season. So all of that, like that particular scene, I think is, I'm always fascinated by that scene. I'm always engaged by that scene, but it's always a little off-putting because even while processing trauma, I don't believe that that's how Buffy would process her trauma. I do believe being distant. Like when she first sees Giles, right?
Yes.
They come back. She can't meet his eye.
Oh, I love that.
Xander and Willow are joking around with Giles. Oh, I had $10. It would be 10 minutes before you said that. Go consult your books. All of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Buffy can't even look at him.
Yeah.
Because he knows, he sees her and she does not want to be seen. So I think that I would have understand her trauma more in a withdrawal, a distance, a not wanting to be seen. I understand it in the moment when she says, no, you're not coming with me. I'm going to go take care of this by myself. I can't protect you guys and do my job at the same time.
Right.
Because she's feeling overwhelmed by her responsibility and by what it means to her, So, so I like all that stuff. I like the moment that she, is working out in the library and destroys the training dummy, like I love that because she's so wigged out. She's like, I'm ready. Yeah. And you can see how scared she is,
Yeah.
I like all of that stuff. And I think that that's good. It's the dance. It's the dancing up on Xander at the Bronze that doesn't ring true to me and doesn't feel like Buffy to me.
That's interesting to me because the beating up the practice dummy feels a little over the top to me.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit, and partly it's that distractingly harsh guitar riff that's playing.
Yeah.
Like I don't love that music choice. Although I do like the way the guitar follows Buffy around through this episode. We've got that, electric guitar. And then later when she's sort of quietly processing, we have some acoustic guitar in the background. It's just kind of a nice musical shift there. But that scene with that training sequence rubs me the wrong way. I think the way the dance rubs you the wrong way.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. But first of all, it's distracting to me that Sarah Michelle Gellar's martial arts double is half again her size. She's way buffer than, the Vampire Slayer herself. And I'm just like, that's not the same woman. And she is wonderful to watch. That last sidekick that she does is executed so beautifully. But
But she's highly muscular. You know? I mean, obviously, she's an athlete. I mean, this woman is absolutely an athlete and is called upon to do things like that. Yeah.
And she's, I think she's probably a good 4 inches taller, too.
Yeah, maybe.
But there's something about that scene and the ferocity with which she attacks that dummy. I don't know. I mean, I do like her seeing the master in everything that she's doing, but I think that training sequence goes from 0 to 60 so fast for me that I don't really buy it. I don't really love it. And then Giles's remark about you obviously stayed in shape raises the question for me of how much training, like what is the role of training for the Slayer? She's obviously supernaturally strong. But
she's supernaturally strong. So does she have to work out to maintain that? Or is the training really about precision?
Yeah.
You know, rather than she has strength, but she has to learn the skills and the precision and all of that.
Right. But I mean, she's pretty precise, kicking that vampire into the broken off tree branch.
Awesome. As far as like dustings go, you know, I mean, the standard like stake to the heart dusting gets a little boring after a while, and they do try to shake that up. I loved her kicking the vamp into the tree branch and the tree branch dusting the vampire.
That was some serious vampire slayer physics at work there. Like she, we had a vampire biologist on Still Dead. I feel like we need a vampire slayer physicist to explain how Buffy is able to so precisely kick that vampire into the tree branch. But we have this, so we have the training sequence and we have her beating up the practice dummy and, destroying it. And then we have her dancing with Xander. Dancing on Xander, dancing adjacent to Xander.
Oh yeah. That's a sexual act.
It's not, it's not especially consensual. No. I really, really like the way he performs that scene.
Yes,
I really
Nicholas
like
Brendan
that.
did a great job with that because you can see how angry and hurt he is because he knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And you can see that, and it's really like uncomfortable.
And he's not going to take this opportunity to be like, oh well, hey, she's dancing all up on me, so I might as well go for it. He knows that this is not genuine.
Yeah,
he's not willing to accept,
and he's not taking that opportunity, which I like. I think we get some good Xander in this episode.
Yeah, we do. We get some good Xander. Although we got to talk about Xander and Willow. And
we do have to talk about Xander and Willow and my deep, deep shame.
It's shameful.
I ship it so hard. I think it's so cute. I love when he puts the ice cream on her nose. But here's the thing, though. They pretty much kiss. I mean, almost kiss. Like, they are right there. Like, there is no way that both of them don't know exactly what's happening in that moment. The fact that it's interrupted by a vampire does not erase time and experience, but they both pretend like, and Xander seems to pretend like he never tried to kiss Willow. Like he's just got a complete blank on it.
Yeah.
So that felt a little weird to me, but I love and part of it is that I love Willow. Willow loves Xander. I want what Willow wants for Willow.
Exactly. Yep.
But they have chemistry, and the actors play that nicely. And I'm not gonna lie. In the early, Buffy, I'm kind of a Xander Willow shipper.
All right. No, I absolutely agree with you that Willow loving Xander makes me love Xander. Even when Xander is awful. In the background, I've still got this but Willow loves Xander.
It's the transitive property of Willow love.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. And I love the way that scene is played. I love their facial expressions. She looks so hopeful, like, oh my God, this is really going to happen. And he looks a little bit like, well, why not? Give it a shot.
Sure. But he's aware of what he's doing. He is about to kiss her.
Yeah, he moves in on her, for sure.
And then we pretend like it's nothing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's tough because Xander is Xander.
Yes.
Xander has tremendous shadow, right? Which is unaddressed with no consequences, right? And that is dangerous. The kind of shadow that is unaddressed, that is unseen, is extremely dangerous. And so we like Willow. We want better for Willow, you know? So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough thing to admit but I can't help it. In those moments, I'm like, oh, I fall for it. I do. So,
well, and when they're sweet together, they're really sweet together.
They are. They are. And I always love those best friend stories. The best friend love stories are always my favorite.
Yeah, that's true. Those are pretty great because, of course, that seems like the most organic love story, that you would be friends with someone and then that love would grow into something deeper.
I was rooting for Ducky in Pretty in Pink. I got to tell you, I'm still mad about that. John Cryer gets sick and suddenly she's with Andrew McCarthy. Whatever. That's another podcast. But we have Xander in this moment with Buffy. When she comes back, they're all gone. He's been beat up and for some reason not killed because I don't know why. And he says, if they hurt Willow, I'll kill you.
Oh, yeah.
And he is so about Willow. Like he's in love with her. We play this. Season 2 is all about Xander's in love with Willow and doesn't know it. Willow's in love with Xander but gives up on it. It's all of that stuff. That's all of season 2. And then when we get to season 3, we hose it horribly. We do absolutely everything wrong with this thing, and it's bad, super, super bad. But anyway, that's a discussion for later. But season 2 is completely playing the Xander and Willow ship, and during season 2, I'm on the ship. I have to admit it. I have to confess, I'm on the ship. I can't help it. Don't at me. I know it's wrong. But I mean, he's so clearly in love with Willow in this season.
Yeah, and I adore that moment when he says, if they hurt Willow, I'll kill you. Like Xander could really hurt Buffy. Not a chance.
But he's so upset about Willow. He's so worried about Willow.
Yeah.
That Willow means so much to him. That he would say that not just to Buffy, who could kill him with her pinky, but also to the girl that he has been in love with or has thought he's been in love with for the past year or so. I mean, it's a very complicated, there's a lot of stuff in that moment that you can parse out.
It's wonderful. And it's
it's pretty good.
It's the strength of his emotion there that kind of wakes Buffy up a little bit to what's going on, that she's been in the wrong by abandoning everyone and insisting that she can do this by herself when she really can't. I mean, previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a show about being yourself and, loving your friends, it really, we wrap up season 1 with the group coming together as a group, and that's how they are strong, stronger together, folks. But then she's so alone. She feels so alone in her pain and so alone in the trauma that she experienced with the master. Yeah. That she takes that out on her friends and she starts to pull away. So it's that connection between Xander and Willow, I think, that is kind of what wakes her up to the fact that, no, we're a group. Yeah. And that's when she starts to kind of open up a little bit to...
Yeah, except that we see her, she goes out, right, to figure out what's going on and to save Willow and bumps into Angel. So I guess now's a good time to talk about Angel.
Let's talk about Angel. Let's talk about Angel.
I love Angel. I love Angel. Angel, he says, I can't help but think I've done something to make you angry, and that bothers me more than I'd like. And this is the thing. Angel, what I love about him, he never plays games. He is always straightforward. He always says exactly what he's thinking, exactly what he means, and I love that. And she's there doing this stupid, come on, kick my ass kind of thing.
I hate that. I hate.
She's so mean to him. And she reminds me of, actually, the way that they write her dialogue with regard to Angel in this episode is really reminiscent, or I guess the stuff they do over in Angel, when we get there in season 1 and 2 with Kate is so similar. It's this kind of like, well, I don't know, I'm living, you're dead, all this kind of stuff, like where she's using his vampirism as a weapon, with which to hurt him. And it was really strange because I'm doing, those episodes over on Still Dead with Dr. Kelly Jones, where we talk about Angel, and watching all this stuff with Kate, and then seeing this episode with Buffy, realizing that dialogue is almost exactly the same. It's exactly the same kind of bitchy stuff that I hate from Kate over on Still Dead, and it's just it was really reminiscent of that, and I hate it from Buffy here with Angel, the way that she's so angry at him, and just so angry in general, and but I love Angel. I love the way he handles it. I love when she says, "Come on, kick my ass," and he's like, "Don't you have somewhere to be?" He is so on task, and he's focused, and he's straightforward, and he says exactly what he's thinking. I love it.
He has no time for this. It's something I love about Angel, is that he's clearly he's 241 years old. Thank you very much. He does not have time. He doesn't have time to play games. I mean, I guess he has all the time in the world, but he's been
on
there.
On the other hand, right.
But he
doesn't have patience for it.
He's been there, done that. He knows that being dishonest or speaking around the issue is not going to help anybody. So let's talk this thing out. I hate that confrontation with him so much, because they've done the whole, we could kill each other thing.
Right.
So much more artfully in Angel, in the Buffy episode, the season 1 episode, Angel, where she comes up to him and drops her weapon and like turns her neck to him like, come on. Show me what you got. And he can't do it. And I don't know. I don't like it. But, excuse me. But I do think it's worth mentioning that we have this traumatized Buffy, being mean, taking it out on the people around her. And it occurs to me that male heroes get to do that all the time. In fiction, and in the world too. We're like, oh well, he's traumatized, so he can be a colossal asshat, and it's fine. Like we're sort of okay with that. We're like, oh, he's the
Batman darkness thing.
Yeah, well, and it's and I went immediately to Batman. I was like, I feel like you see this all the time in superhero stories, and certainly with Batman, and if we look at our other bat folk, Batgirl,
our other
bat folk.
Sorry,
it's fine.
Continue.
It's great.
On.
So Batman is broody and dark. Batgirl is pretty chipper, but Batwoman is also kind of dark and broody. Except she's a lesbian. Ooh. So I don't know what we're trying to say about sexuality and, all of that.
Gender identity and how the ways in which we are allowed to express our trauma. Like, women are supposed to cry, right? And men are supposed to get distant and be mean.
And punch things.
And punch things. Right. Right. So here we have Buffy, who is taking a somewhat masculine approach, to this whole thing. And is this something that if she were a man, we would accept it? I don't know. I'm not sure that I would accept this same kind of thing, even, like from a male character who had been traumatized.
I just mean that it's something that we get to see in fiction. I think if we flipped it, I don't know. That is a very familiar idea in fiction, is the guy who's,
well, we love our broody Byronic hero, right?
Yeah. Well, and that his pain, makes whatever meanness he does to other people okay.
Right, or at least understandable.
Yeah.
And
I don't think Buffy the show is condoning Buffy's behavior. I think that that the show is very conscious of the fact that she's out of line in how mean she's being to the people who care about her and would like to connect with her. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But I don't know. I feel like male protagonists get a little bit more leeway in that.
Oh yeah,
in that department, so,
definitely get a little bit, and we like the broody, the guy who's suffered so much. I mean, that's what Angel is in a lot of ways. Although he's not mean, but he's very broody. He's distant. He's
distant.
Got this darkness in his past. I think he's processed a lot of his trauma. Of course, he's had 240 years to do it, so fair enough. But yeah, I think that with Buffy, and especially with a woman.
Yeah.
When a woman is mean, when a guy is mean, he's just a guy, right?
Right. It's
maybe he's a bully or whatever, but he's a guy, right? But when a woman is mean, when Cordelia is mean, when Buffy is mean, they're bitchy. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. But I think that we do allow a lot more from men in that arena because we won't allow men in general to express other emotions.
Right.
We shut them off from everything except anger and distance and meanness. I mean, culturally, generally, with what we accept from men, like if a man cries, that somehow it's, it shows this weakness. It's not masculine to cry, although I think that now we're seeing much more of that expressed in much healthier ways. I think now culturally we are even more so than we were, in the 90s with Buffy.
Yeah.
During this time frame, we were still in that, a man isn't a man unless he's stoic, pissed off, traumatized and dark,
Well, yeah, I mean, it was the era of singers who are, boy singers who are mad about everything.
Oh, right.
Especially,
Yeah,
they're mad about their emotions, damn it. There was a lot of that. So, and I think that what Buffy is doing as a show here in allowing our protagonist, our titular character, to be distant and angry and unlikable. That word popped into my head when I was watching this, and I immediately thought of you.
Yes, how much I hate unlikable.
Yeah, well, because but that was what I thought watching Buffy. I'm like, she is not likable in this episode.
She's not likable, but she's sympathetic, and so that's why it works.
Yep.
But that's my whole rant on that. Okay, briefly for those of you who somehow have been listening to me for any length of time and haven't heard me go on about likable versus sympathetic. One of the things that happens a lot, especially with female writers who write female characters, is that you get feedback where people say your main character is not quote unquote likable enough, and then they go on and they make her super likable and she's super fun and she's super sweet and all this kind of really bullshit stuff. Fact of the matter is, your main character does not need to be likable. This does not need to be somebody that we want to go have lunch with or go shopping trips with. This is somebody that we have to have sympathy for, which means that they have vulnerability that we can see and we can understand and we can sympathize with. That the vulnerability is really the key for every character, not just your title characters, not just your female characters, but for everybody, for every character to connect with your audience. Vulnerability is actually that key. And if you want more information on that, go to How Story Works, my podcast on How Story Works. When I talk about character, I talk about all the kinds of vulnerability and how you work vulnerability into your characters. So if you are a writer, go check it out there. That's the brief. Okay, so back to Buffy. You're right. She's not likable, but she definitely is sympathetic. Like, I do feel sympathy for her, even when she's behaving really badly. And the two parts that I really don't like, I can handle pretty much all of it. I don't mind any of it too much, but I hate the dance up on Xander. And I hate when she says, kick my ass with Angel.
Yeah.
And especially because Angel is being so great and so straightforward and, just like really there, with her. And, and I like that. And I don't want to see him get beat up by her. I don't want to see her hurt Willow by dancing up on Xander. I don't want to see her hurt Xander by dancing up on Xander. Cordelia, as Cordelia said in the alleyway, I can hold my own. I'm not worried about Cordelia.
I love that moment. I love that confrontation with Cordelia.
Yes. Cordelia is fantastic.
Love the Cordelia that we get in this episode.
Yes. And that's one thing too, is that there have been accusations out there on the internet. I have seen them. where people are saying that I'm too light on Cordelia. I give Cordelia a pass. I love up on Cordelia no matter how she behaves, and she's mean to Willow. She's mean, and she should be held to task for it.
Right.
Okay. Fine, fair enough. In the beginning of season 1, yes, she is. I like Cordelia more and more and more as we go, because she becomes less the bitchy mean girl and more just a really interesting kind of fully fledged character, and is given in the role of a woman, which is, often not the case, right? She is the truth teller. We always have a truth teller somewhere on staff, in the main Scooby group.
Yeah.
And it shifts from person to person, from character to character. But the first truth teller that we have within, the span of Buffy the Vampire Slayer is Cordelia. She does not care about being polite. She does not care about saying the right thing. What she says is the truth as she sees it. I mean, sometimes it's the truth as Cordelia sees it, which is a little bit off, like when she's talking with Jenny about the worst part of being, hung upside down by vampires and killed are the stains in your clothing. And she's like, yeah. But the truth as she sees it, she will always share that. I have a lot of respect for that in Cordelia, and I like her a lot. I like when she walks up to them in the hallway and starts talking to them like they are people without treating them like they're lesser than her. I like when she looks at Buffy and says, your secret's safe with me. It's fine, right? Like, I like when she goes out into the alleyway and says, I'm going to give you some advice.
I
spank
love
your inner
that.
mop it, whatever, but get over it. I love that whole thing.
It's so great.
And these are the reasons why I love Cordelia. I'm not going to say that her behavior has been stellar throughout season 1, but we've always had this element in her. We see it more and more and more and more as we move through season 1. And by the end of season 1, we're getting really good Cordelia. We're getting the Cordelia that drives her car into the school.
Yeah.
She is badass. Cordelia is seriously badass. And I love her. I think she's fantastic. So yeah, am I going to say that she was, not a bully to Willow? I'm not going to say that. She was horrible to Willow in that, opening, in those opening episodes. But Willow also stood up for herself.
Yeah.
Control, alt, deliver, right?
Right.
Go ahead and deliver.
Yeah.
Willow can also hold her own against Cordelia. And Cordelia, I think, is a really wonderful character, especially in a very feminine character who is also allowed to be smart, to be capable, and to be honest. So I like all those things about Cordelia, and I will defend my Cordelia love. I mean, until they destroy her over an angel.
Yeah.
But while she's in Buffy, she's good.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't mind the Willow Cordelia thing. Not because Cordelia is so great. I mean, she is, especially in the first couple of episodes, she is awful to Willow.
Yes.
But because Willow isn't really bothered by it.
And Willow can handle herself.
Yeah. I never get
Willow's tough.
And I never get the sense that Willow wishes Cordelia would like her. She's not interested in being a Cordette. She's happy being on Team Buffy. So
Willow hates Cordelia.
The fact
Willow
that Cordelia
and Xander
doesn't,
make fun of Cordelia.
The fact that Cordelia is mean to Willow doesn't really ruffle Willow at all. Maybe just the tiniest bit when Willow is introduced, but that's the first episode.
That's the first episode. But Willow handles herself really, really well and can take Cordelia.
Yeah. And I love, and it's Willow who shifts us into totally honest Cordelia. Cordelia comes to her in Prophecy Girl and says, I like your outfit. And Willow says, no, you don't. Yeah. And Cordelia says, no, I don't, but I need a favor. And then I think from there on out, we get this Cordelia who says, who has these great lines like, we've never really been close, which is nice because I don't really like you that much.
Right. I know.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. Good. And then she throws in that she tries to throw the last little verbal punch. I'll see if Angel feels like dancing.
Right.
And of course, then she's kidnapped by vampires. But it's just, she's so well written. She's so consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig Cordelia. I love her as the sort of voice of not reason, but
Yeah.
She's
honesty. She's the truth teller. I always love the truth teller. Every truth teller we have throughout the run of Buffy. We got Spike, we get Anya. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people in that role. I always think that's a great role to have, and really, really fun to have somebody who does not care about social niceties, will say whatever, the hard truth is at any given moment. And it's wonderful. I've always loved those characters, and I love Cordelia, and I think that she's great. And I think that, you're right. Willow handles herself with Cordelia. I think Willow gets to decide how bad Cordelia is, and Cordelia is not doing any damage to Willow. Willow can take it.
Yeah.
Cordelia is not punching down with Willow.
Yeah.
So yes, her behavior is mean, and she is a bully, and I will absolutely grant that. But at the same time, she's not punching below her weight.
Yeah.
She knows Willow can take her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why she picks on Willow a little bit. But anyway, I love Cordelia in this episode. I think she's fantastic. I like this new Cordelia who's kind of part of the crew because she knows the secrets because she was there during the crisis. I like all of this stuff.
Well, and she's not going to hide it. She comes up to them in the hallway and she's talking about, what happened. And is it Xander or Willow who comes up with our inner demons that we were fighting? But Cordelia doesn't have any time to hide. Cordelia's like, nope, this is just, it is what it is. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful.
No. I love her. So can we talk about Giles a little bit?
Oh my God. I love Giles.
Because I love Giles so much. And, it's so funny because when I first watched Buffy, I was, I think, in my late 20s probably, and saw Giles as the older. Now Giles is my age. So I'm looking at Giles, I'm like, Giles is hot.
You're like Giles, let's throw down. Giles is
a good looking man, and also British, which of course is my weakness anyway. So I love Giles in this episode. I even love the way that he is with Jenny, when he and Jenny Calendar are flirting while Snyder's doing his little monologuing in the foreground. So cute.
I love Giles and Snyder. They're together just a couple times in this episode, and I adore it. They're so funny.
Snyder's fantastic. I love Snyder. I love Armin Shimmerman in that role. I think he plays it perfectly.
He's such a great counterpoint to Giles, too. Who's so...
Yes, he really is.
I want to say Giles is sweet in this episode. I don't think that's the right word, but he's very... we talk about Dad Giles. He's very paternal in a good way, but then he's so vulnerable with Jenny.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
No, I know.
And I hate to say it, but I really, really love Jenny and Giles. That's my...
No, I know.
That's my
that's
ship.
Your shameful ship?
Yeah, that's my ship. I don't want to like it because there's still something so icky about Jenny to me. And I think it's that I don't mind her being more openly sexual than Giles. But there's a fetishy quality about it. There's something like she's a little bit too male fantasy in the way, depends on the book. It's that's not where I dangle it. And we're supposed to go, ooh, sexy, but I don't.
It doesn't feel like a genuine character. It feels like an amalgamation of qualities that equal sexy teacher lady. Right? In the way that we've been able to write Cordelia as a complete and interesting and fully fledged character, Jenny is just this flat dead fish, but Giles likes her. I like Giles. I want her for Giles.
Yep.
I'm on the ship.
Well, and
this is what I see that the people I love want something. I want it for them.
And I love the idea of Jenny for Giles. I love the potential of that. I love the idea that she would be drawn to him and he would be drawn. I always like those stories, though, the opposites attract kind of couple who are like, oh, we shouldn't have anything in common. He was a boy, she was a girl, he was a librarian, she was a techno-pagan. It's like, it's so formulaic, but it works for me. And
there's a reason why people go to it.
Yeah.
It is a workable, it's a workable trope. And there's nothing wrong with a trope if it works.
Yeah.
You just have to do it well is all.
But, and of course, Jenny went to Burning Man. Like, of course she did.
Of course she did. It was funny when she mentioned Burning Man, though, because I was like, Burning Man was a thing back then?
Oh, yeah.
It got big and I didn't realize it was a thing all the way back then.
I think it was a much smaller thing.
A much smaller thing, right.
I love that. But then I love that she acknowledges that no, Giles would have hated it with a fiery passion.
Right.
She's about to say you would have loved it, and then she realizes who she's talking to, and no, so so they're not a total mismatch.
Well, because they can see each other.
Yeah.
I think that the problem for me with Jenny is that she is not a character. She's not written as a character. She's written as the sexy teacher, stereotype, the sassy lady.
Yeah, the fun teacher. Hey, guys.
Right, the young one. The young one, right.
Yeah.
So, I like Giles so much that I want Jenny for him because he obviously wants her. And I kind of fill in the space myself. It's like you get a coloring book that's halfway colored and not really that well. And you just kind of fill it in yourself because you want it to work and it's fun. And I do as we move forward with Giles and Jenny, I do like them more together, as we move through it. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, it's a tough sell. It really is.
Yeah. But it's a great way. I feel like it's a great way to open Giles in this episode is to have him
and give him something personal.
Yeah.
He has nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see him kind of come back to, they come back to school and he's, oh, Miss Calendar. He's
all flustered. Yeah.
It's great. But we get some really, really good Giles in this episode, starting with that scene where he acknowledges Buffy. She joins. I love Xander calling him G-Man, and Giles goes, "Never call me that again." And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Oh, it's so cute.
Oh,
but I
God.
love the way that he looks at Buffy and he's so happy to see her again. And you see that dad within him. Like, he's just dad.
Yeah.
He's just dad. He's more dad than Hank will ever be,
Yep.
And he's watching her and taking in everything and observing and paying attention, and she's looking away and she's pulling away from him, and he sees that too. Like, I like the way that he sees her.
He very pointedly says, "How are you?" Like, he knows. There's a great Anthony Stewart Head gives that a great a little emphasis. How are you? He knows, and he's really like, I'm really asking. This isn't, oh, hey, how are you? He really wants to know.
He's in tune with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love it. And then at the end, when she's gone through this whole thing, she's smashed the master's bones. She cried up all over on Angel. She's processed her trauma. And she's talking to Giles, and she feels so bad about the way that she's treated Xander and Willow. And he says, "You acted wrongly, I'll admit that, but it's hardly the biggest mistake you'll ever make." Of course, which is, poor comforting,
right?
But it's such a dad thing. He's so good. He's so non-judgmental with her, and that's one of the things that I love, is that he never plays this kind of hard line, tough love, I've got to kick your ass in order to be better for you.
Right.
He's so sympathetic with her, and he understands her, and he sees things through her point of view as much as he can. I love that about him. I love how much he loves her. Yeah.
It's really, really wonderful.
It's a great love story. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't really talked about that final scene with Buffy where she does, work out her issues, as Xander says.
Yeah. You're right. She's working.
What is she doing? She's working out her issues. I as much as I dislike Buffy and her sort of angry self this whole episode, I like this scene at the end, this fight scene at the end, where she puts the anger where it really belongs, which is on the actual villain.
Yes.
And then she's able to grieve. She's finally able to, acknowledge,
to feel it.
to feel the pain and the sadness of everything that she's gone through.
Yeah.
And I love that moment where she turns around and Angel is right there and he just embraces her while she cries. And they're wearing their little matching uniforms of black jacket, white shirt, black pants, because he's the closest one to knowing what she's feeling. In that moment. And I think that's a great, as much as I dislike the whole hurt people narrative and the trauma equals meanness thing, I really, really like that ending. And when she starts to cry, we get reaction shots from Giles and Xander and Willow. And I think it's interesting to note that Willow's reaction includes looking over to Xander to see what his reaction is, because Willow's reaction is as much about Xander as it is about Buffy. And I mean, that's deep. I mean, the Buffy Giles love story is deep. The Willow Xander love story is deep. The, caring about somebody because they care about somebody, Willow cares about Buffy in that moment, but she also cares about Xander because Buffy's trauma affects Xander.
Right. Well, and Buffy is crying on Angel's shoulder, not on Xander's shoulder. And Willow's looking at Xander. But Xander, when he grabs Willow, they get Willow and he's holding Willow while Giles is holding Jenny. And then, of course, poor Cordelia, I guess, is just kind of the fifth wheel.
She's on her own,
Just kind of on her own. Nobody really cares about Cordelia there. But, I mean, it's there's this nice kind of dance of all of these, interacting relationships between everybody. Giles wakes up, sees Jenny, says, "Are you okay?" And then his first thought is, "Where's Buffy?"
Yeah.
So you see where everybody's priority is.
Yeah.
And I like this, I like that Buffy she takes that sledgehammer, she smashes his bones, she goes through that whole, it's like this ritual thing. She has to destroy every last thing.
Yeah.
Every last bit of the master. She has to be sure that it's done.
Yeah.
And then Angel, of course, is there for her when that happens. And when she needs somebody to fall apart on, it's Angel. Yeah. Angel's the one that she turns to. So I like all of that stuff. I think it's a really powerful, ending scene. And then I love, afterwards, she goes and she sits down with Willow and Xander. She feels so bad about the way that she's treated everybody, and that without anything, without an apology, without anything, they're just like, yeah, okay, so what are we gonna do, And then Xander says, I was thinking we could smash the bones of our enemies into dust or into talcum powder with a sledgehammer, but we did that last night. It's so cute the way that he references, they're not pretending these things didn't happen, they're not pretending they didn't have this experience together, they're just saying it doesn't matter. I understand, you're forgiven. It's really nice.
Well, and I feel like that is a friend relationship that I recognize, the friend who will not make light of what happened, but will turn it into a joke. I mean, Carrie Fisher famously said, "If my life wasn't funny, it would just be true." And that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Right.
If it wasn't funny, it would just be true. And that's unacceptable. Right. And I love seeing that kind of friendship played out where
we can acknowledge what's going on. We don't have to pretend that this didn't happen. We don't have to make like it's, we're not in denial, but what we are is moving on and it's okay, and I like that. I like the way he acknowledges it. And basically by making a joke out of it is telling her it's okay. Yeah. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is really nice. I love that. And then, of course, we've got the little ending coda.
Oh, my God.
Right? Where the little kid comes in. I hate that girl.
Yeah, we haven't talked about our villains in this episode really at all. Everybody got makeovers over the summer, including the Anointed One, who last season was dressed as a child. He was wearing a zip-up hoodie and jeans and sneakers, and he looked like a little kid. And here we see him in this black turtleneck and black pants, and he kind of looks like a little mini master.
Right. How awful must it be to be vamped at the age of 7?
Oh, God.
Like, to be 7 years old for your entire existence
God.
while you have the darkness and rage of a vampire within. I mean, that is darkness.
Yeah. Except that he's not written as a child. He's written as this otherworldly sort of thing. And I think that the change in costume, they're sort of adultropomorphizing him.
Yes.
Like he looks like a little adult.
Right.
And,
no, absolutely. That's what they're doing.
And of course, that makes it okay a couple episodes later when he is dispatched.
Yeah, when he's going to die.
Because we couldn't.
And we're going to get our real villains.
Yes.
For the season, which I'm so excited about.
Oh my God. We couldn't. But I think that if he had been, in his little kid gear in that cage, when our actual villains come in, I think that would have sat the wrong way. Like that would have been a little bit uncomfortable for everybody.
No, we've got to make him, grown up on the inside and as much on the outside as we can.
Yeah.
In order to handle him being, a bad guy.
Yeah.
And at this point in the season, it looks like, the Anointed One is going to be our bad guy for this season. Of course, not realizing that we're going to switch that up pretty quickly.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun.
But he's in charge now. The Anointed One, now that the Master's gone, the Anointed One is in charge, and he's got Absalom as his right-hand vamp. Absalom, of course, is our preacher character who
our vampire of color.
Yes, our vampire of color.
One of the few characters of color that we have in this whole thing. Yeah. And of course, it's a vampire.
Yep. And they give him there is something really uncomfortable about the way that Absalom is dealt with in this episode. Yeah. As our powerful, he's a powerful villain who also happens to be a black man. And when he's killed, when Buffy kills him at the end,
we light him on fire.
Yeah, yeah, we light him on fire. So instead of having the vamp get stabbed, turns to dust, disappears, which is an instantaneous sort of death.
Right.
And we see vampires, grimace as they're being stabbed, but it's not
but it's fairly quick and it's fairly humane, but being lit on fire and screaming while you're burning, that's torture.
It is. It's a grisly, painful death, and I can't help but think that has something to do with his being a black man, that we need to see a black character who is evil punished more severely than our white characters.
That's how we live in America.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think even worse, it's not conscious.
Yeah.
I don't think they did it deliberately.
No.
I think that's just how we're so used to dealing with characters of color, with people of color.
Yep.
Their consequences are always more dire for the exact same thing, or for things that are less offensive than what, white people do. We're so used to that that I feel like this is something where in the moment when they're like, who gets the stake and who gets the fire? Well, we're going to give Absalom the fire. And part of that is also because he is higher up on the evil.
Yes.
Like, he is more personified evil, whereas all the other vampires are just vampires lying around.
Right.
In which case, and I'm glad because an actor of color got some more money, got some more speaking lines, got that SAG card if you didn't already have it, So in the background, I'm like, yeah, give the character of color a bigger part. But it is a very uncomfortable reflection of how our society treats people of color in general. And again, I think that the reason why he was given that death is because he was more evil, because he was a more prominent evil, because we had to deal with him in a way that made him suffer for how bad he was, right? Because he was not just a vampire there, but he was organizing all the vampires. But the fact that he ended up also being a vampire of color makes that a little uncomfortable.
Well, and he's also a kind of a preacher character. So he is preaching the gospel of vampirism, for lack of a better, way of expressing that. And I feel like there's something to that too, about needing to see that, that kind of darkness punished. That there's something really. There's Absalom is a very problematic character. I mean, I feel like there's no way around it. And
yeah, and you know what? Like, honestly, I gotta say, whenever I start talking about this stuff as a white person, I always feel like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, go ahead and write in. You know, like, give me your thoughts on it. Give me your responses to it. Somebody who actually has this experience that when we see, like, because every time I see, you know, a person of color, especially in Buffy, which is so white.
Oh, God, it's so white.
Buffy's so white. Buffy are almost Oscars white.
Yeah.
Like, it's so white. That whenever we see a character of color, there's instantly, like, so much meaning and so much cultural context placed on the shoulders of this guy who just got a job. Right? You know, like, this guy just had a job to do and did the job and was fine. So I always feel like as a white person, I always feel like I'm really sliding outside of my lane when I start talking about this stuff, but I do want to acknowledge it, you know, and I think we should talk about it, but like, just understand, anybody listening, that as we talk about it, we're just like shining a light on something so that we talk about it, because culturally we have historically not done that, and that's what causes a lot of the problems, and that we don't recognize a lot of the problems societally that we have, because those problems are reflected in our stories, you know. And it's when we get, like, Willow-Xander is a dark reflection of accepted modes of patriarchy, really, really destructive patriarchal elements in our society. Willow-Xander is a reflection of that because we don't question it.
Right.
So the hard thing about Buffy is that Buffy is so incredibly white. I mean, it's white, you know, that whenever we have a character of color, we feel like this is so significant. And then I feel like I'm putting maybe too much significance onto certain things with these characters of color. And maybe I'm being oversensitive about it, maybe, you know, but like, as a white person, I don't want to ignore things that I should be seeing. And a lot of times I don't see them, and then people tell me and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. You know, so I'm sure that there are people who can give like a better, more, you know, nuanced view of all of this, especially characters of color within Buffy, than I can. I'm just speaking from what I see, you know, and how it does make me uncomfortable in the way that it reflects, you know, kind of this the way that Willow-Xander does. It reflects this racism in our society that goes unquestioned, the way that Willow-Xander reflects patriarchy, patriarchal values in our society that also go unquestioned. So that's, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, my final thing is, yeah, I notice it. I don't know what I think about it. I don't know how strongly I feel about it, but it is uncomfortable. It is an uncomfortable reflection.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about it because I notice how, you know, as I'm becoming aware of white supremacy and how it's influenced me as a white person. Yeah. Because you cannot, like, when you benefit from white supremacy, when you benefit from God, any privilege, really. Yeah. You know, it has nothing to do with you. It's all about how you were born. You know, I was born with white skin, so I see things through this cultural lens that says,
or don't see things. But because we're white, so that's not our experience. We don't see it until we're shown. Right. You know?
Well, and we are by not seeing it, we are complacent in that kind of oppression. So, you know, I feel very strongly that when Black people appear on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it probably ineloquently, because this is something that I'm still learning about, you know, in my own, you know, my own experience, and how just how deep white supremacy goes into our media, because of course our media is a reflection of our society, and you know, absolutely. But I do think, I mean, and this is something that I'm going to continue to watch for as we watch the show. I think that there's something here about the about Black pain, about the, you know, ideas about pain thresholds for people of color. I mean, that's something that is part of our, you know, our society, our medical system,
how we devalue Black bodies.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that there's something, you know, it's a small moment, but I think Absalom being burned to death and the way that that's shown has a lot to do with the kind of society that we're living in.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that we shouldn't talk about it. I just meant to say that I like what I'm going to say about it may not be correct, and it may not be as nuanced, and it may not be as aware of everything, and so I always feel uncomfortable when I talk about this stuff because I really do feel like I'm sliding out of my lane, but I do think it's important that we notice it and that we talk about it and that we do our level best, which is the best we can do, to acknowledge these things, because it's when these things are invisible that they are at their most powerful. It is when we don't see them. It is when we, and as a person who has privilege, which both of us do, it's really easy for us to not see things.
Absolutely.
It's really easy. And I really want to try to make sure that I'm seeing everything. It's just that when I call it out, I sometimes feel like, what the hell do I know? Like, do I even know what I'm talking about? I just want to make sure that people are seen and that people know that I see them. I see you. I'm trying.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important, but at the same time, I don't want to talk as though I know everything about all of these issues of race and being a person of color. And of course, people of color are not a monolith.
No.
There are a million different ways to experience being a person of color within our society. And even when we say person of color, right, we're not just talking about Black. Person of color is like this big thing, like anybody who's not white.
Right.
And that is just way too huge a tent to put everybody into.
Right.
So it's a tough thing to talk about, and I'm gonna fuck it up, and I apologize in advance. And if I do, just correct me, just educate me, anybody out there who hears me talking about something in a way that isn't quite right. But I do think it's so important that we do talk about it.
Yeah. And I'm going to call out representations of Black people specifically because because of the relationship that our country has with Black people and
specifically
that history
the things that we've done with Black people.
Yeah. So that was our white supremacy portion of Still Pretty.
White supremacy moment of the day.
Yeah, your white supremacy moment of the day.
All right, should we move into Arg the Patriarchy? Is that a good segue
let's
into
move
that?
into the patriarchy. I mean, okay, all right. So I'm gonna call myself in on this one, Lani.
Yes. Okay.
Because we talked about this a little bit already, or maybe a lot of it already. I take issue with Buffy being mean in this episode.
Yeah.
She's not likable. And I know that fictional and non-fictional men get to do horrible things all the time and get a pass because they have been, oh, but he had a horrible past. Oh, but he was abused.
Right.
Oh, but this. Oh, but that. And culturally, and I think narratively as well, we give men and masculine characters a pass.
Leeway.
We give them leeway. And it's like, we don't have a problem identifying with these male characters who behave in this way. So I'm wondering, is it my internalized misogyny that says, no, I don't like Buffy in this episode because she's mean?
All right. So here's the thing that I want you to think about, because I think it may not be internalized misogyny. I think this may be very specific to Buffy, because it's not just that Buffy's mean and, we don't allow women to be mean and yada, yada, and they're not likable, then we don't want to have anything to do with them. I think it may be because it feels inconsistent to her character for her to express her trauma in this very specific way. When she's dancing all up on, this is a character who is not overly sexualized, right?
Right.
Buffy, and her trauma was not sexual. And she was so careful. Well, okay.
It
right.
wasn't.
Wait, I'm sorry. Look, did the Master and Buffy have sex and I missed it?
No. I am never going to live this down. I'm never going to.
No.
I love it. I'm never going to live down the off-screen, the off-screen sexual encounter.
Darla and Angel having
Darla
sex, right?
and Angel having some sort of sexy times off-screen. It happens. Whatever. It's fine.
Just accept it. Right?
Just accept it. That was.
But
yeah.
But anyway, my point being that it is possible that this doesn't sit well with you because it feels inconsistent with Buffy's character.
True.
And not because she's a girl.
Yeah, that's possible. Especially the sexual cruelty that she performs.
Well, using her sexuality as something to hurt not just Xander, or not just Angel, but also Xander and Willow, to me feels very out of character for Buffy.
Yeah, especially because when Angel comes to her room and they have that little not quite fight that they have, and then later, you know, Willow says, we see Buffy at school with Willow and Xander, and Willow wants to know, is it, you know, was there kissing? Like, she wants to know.
Was it
smoochy times? Yeah. And Xander says it's not all about kissing. Sometimes it's about groping. And she turns to them and says, grow up. Yeah. Buffy is not... She's not sexual, but her relationship with Angel, we have called out several times, is not yet that physical a relationship. I'm thinking also about when he spends the night in Angel.
And she doesn't use her sexuality as a weapon. That's not like, and I understand that when you're traumatized, you behave in ways that are not typical. But I feel like for me, those moments rub me the wrong way because they don't feel genuine to Buffy. You know, had it been Cordelia who was traumatized and using her sexuality to hurt people, I could see that, you know. But it just doesn't seem consistent with the ways in which Buffy would act out.
Because
so for me, I think that's why it doesn't sit well with me.
Well, because it's not a true shadow. There is no light side to the Buffy sexuality. We haven't been there yet. We haven't been, you know, sexuality is not something that she uses to connect with people. So we don't have... It doesn't make sense to have her use it as something
She's playing Faith in this moment. Like, that's the thing that Faith would do, you know, and who we'll see, of course, in season 3. And oh my God, I can't wait for that. But it's a thing it's not a thing that Buffy, I think, would do. It's not consistent with her character. It's the same thing in the alleyway with Angel when she's like, oh yeah, kick my ass. Yeah. Willow's in danger at that moment. There is no way. Buffy would maybe be cranky and maybe be rude with him, but I don't think that she would waste her time in that moment when he says, don't you have somewhere to be? Like, there's no way she forgets Willow for a second. She has stuff to do. Yeah. Like, I can see her brushing Angel off because she has stuff to do and she doesn't have time for this nonsense. But I don't see her, you know, goading him and getting distracted from saving Willow at that point.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, it's maybe not internalized misogyny, but maybe just...
I think it's probably not. But I understand why you would ask that question, because we don't allow women to be mean.
Or
broody. In a way that we allow men. Although I think now we do. But at this time... Yeah. You know, I think now we have Jessica Jones is a great example of that. You know, she's a very, very, you know, like tough, angry character who has been traumatized, and we understand, you know, what she's been through and all that. And I think that we are allowing our male characters to have more connection with their emotions. If you think about the TV show This Is Us, right? That's very, you know, lots of men in that, very emotionally connected, very emotionally expressive. So we have a lot of that in that, which is a huge hit right now. We're seeing angry women, you know, all over the place, right? Jessica Jones being just one example of how that works. So I think that I can understand why it's a concern, but I don't think that's what's happening here with you specifically.
All right. So is there anything...
But internalized misogyny is a thing we've got to keep an eye out for.
It's totally... It's internalized misogyny is so a thing, and it's a thing that we are going to talk about more as we get further into Buffy. Both my own, I don't know about your own, but my own certainly, and the internalized misogyny that we see in character, you know, demonstrated in characters on the show. That's gonna be a fun discussion.
Those are gonna be really interesting discussions. Absolutely. All right, so do you have a girl power moment of the week?
I don't really have a specific girl power moment of the week. I want to say it's Cordelia, just because she's so kick-ass. But
she is really kick-ass. I like that. I have Cordelia. I think that she's not polite. She's straightforward. She's honest. You know, she's nice to everybody. And she's not nice. She's never nice. Cordelia is never nice. She's friendly. she's friendly and accepting of everybody after they come back from summer. She also takes the time to go talk to Buffy and say, you're going to lose your friends, and kind of try to help her out. You've saved the world a couple of times, so I'm going to give you advice. I like that from Cordelia. I think that she's really great. And, Buffy is strong, and she's angry, and she kicks a vampire into a tree branch.
And she tortures a vampire into telling her where her friends are.
A vampire. Right. That was something that I thought was a little bit interesting and very dark, torturing a vampire to get information. Torturing anybody to get information is just a bad thing. That's what the bad guys do. But it's really interesting here, especially this is a bit before we get to 24, the Kiefer Sutherland show, in which torturing people to get confessions is basically every episode.
Right.
And it's kind of an interesting darkness in this moment with Buffy.
I really, really enjoy it. It's one of the few dark Buffy moments in this episode that I really like.
Because she would take out her anger on vampires.
She would.
Right? Vampires are who she's mad at. I think it's a dark moment for Buffy, but I believe that moment.
I like it because it really says, no, you don't fuck with Buffy's friends. Like, at this point, she's on the case. She is out to save her friends, and you don't, she doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
She doesn't mess around when her friends are in danger.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So what's your favorite part?
I have all of my favorite parts are Giles in this episode.
I love Giles.
I love Giles. Giles just being unwilling to lie when Buffy comes up behind him as he's talking, and Xander says, "It's an interesting point about trout," and he just turns, Giles, trout is a fish. Good morning. Like, he just can't. Like, he's not even.
He's adorable.
He's totally unwilling to lie. And Giles's moment with the soda.
Oh God, when he tastes the soda, like it's the first time he's ever had a soda, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, or like it's gone bad. He looks at it like, oh, what?
Is there an expiration date on this thing? The man has only ever had tea and whiskey. That's it.
That's all. Yeah.
It's pretty adorable.
I'm going to rave about Anthony Stewart Head as we go through the show. His acting choices are just consistently phenomenal. They give him great stuff to do, but then he elevates it. But all of his little moments.
The little moments.
Are just fantastic. What's your favorite part?
Well, I hate to admit it. It's Xander and Willow, like the almost kiss. I really love that. I fall for the whole thing. I ship it. It's stupid, but I love it. And it makes me happy, and I don't care.
Love what you love, baby.
All right, that's it for today. To join in the discussion on Twitter, follow me at Lani Diane Rich and Noelle at Noelle Aloud, and use the hashtag StillPretty. You can also visit the Chipperish forums. Go to chipperish.com, click on forum, and join in the fun.
Or you can keep Chipperish Media going to the tune of $1 a month or more and gain access to the live chat in Discord, where you can hang out with me and Lani and all the Chipperish patrons who are possessed by a possessing thing. Visit patreon.com/Chipperish to find out more.
You can also show your support for Still Pretty by going to Apple Podcasts and giving us a review. That's one of the most effective ways to show support for any podcasts you love. That's the best thing you can do for them. Or talk about us on social media as well. Word of mouth is a powerful thing.
We will be back next time with Some Assembly Required, the second episode of Season 2. Until then, pay up. We called 10 minutes before you consulted your books about something.